Yet conversations, they surround finances very infrequently. They stay tucked away in a corner. So money touches nearly every single major decision that a couple will make together. Every person enters a relationship carrying a financial blueprint that was drafted years and years and years earlier. Research consistently shows that financial tension remains one of the leading contributors to relationship stress. Do you truly understand your own financial story first?
We've all been there, feeling stuck in the grind, chasing that freedom we're aching to find. But what if the answer was clear?
Welcome to Fearlessly Debt Free. I'm Lisa Marie Hintze, and I always want to say thank you for taking the time to join me here and to check it all out and see what the conversation is for today. I know that it's always so cliche to say like, subscribe, and share this information if you know that there's anybody in your life that might benefit from the topic of the day and the things that we're going to be sharing. And again, I wanted to just say thank you for your time and for showing up. So anyway, let's get moving on. I was thinking recently about relationships and how fascinating it is that we tend to spend a lot of time getting to know each other, getting to understand what some of the things are that the other person that we're maybe dating or getting to know really makes them tick and what they're all about. And then we talk about the relationship getting a little bit more serious. Maybe during that time, you're talking about childhood memories, your favorite vacations, career aspirations. I don't know if I say some of these words and you're thinking, oh yeah, I remember those days. Maybe it's family traditions and maybe dreams for the future. We learn so much about what makes the other person laugh and maybe what causes frustration and where we hope that we can maybe continue moving forward and maybe what life will look like for us. Yet conversations, they surround finances very infrequently. They stay tucked away in a corner somewhere. They're waiting for another time or a date later down the road. And the irony to all of that is money touches nearly every single major decision that a couple will make together. So whether it's to live, think about this for a moment. It's such a very big umbrella over our entire life, basically. Maybe it's for our children, or are they part of the plan? Because kids are pretty darn expensive, and we've got 4, and now we've got all these little amazing grandbabies running around, and it's definitely okay to do things that you don't have to spend money, but there's a lot of times that the credit card will come out for sure. But even during that getting to know each other, you might be talking about retirement or travel, career changes during this time, or maybe it's even for caring for aging parents. And early on in a relationship, some of those conversations, you're not thinking about them too much because they seem so far away. Or it could be building businesses or giving generously, maybe even creating experiences. These are some of the topics that come up potentially in those conversations of getting to know somebody. Maybe even determining what a peaceful life might look like to the other person. Maybe financial choices, but yes, they don't come up. Financial choices, they quietly weave themselves in the background somewhere. But knowing that they do come up and they do become the focus of our relationships, it's really important that we take the time to think about this. So when we talk about financial choices, they weave themselves through every season of our life, yet so many couples and so much time of the dating portion of our life doesn't really address that. And so we want to talk about that today. And what interests me the most is to have these conversations, yes, but it's interesting to know that your bank account is not really what's defining you. It's not maybe the loan statement. I'm far more curious about the messages that are shaping your thinking long before adulthood. And that's what really shows up. Every person enters a relationship carrying a financial blueprint that was drafted years and years and years earlier. And those early years were observations because they're really powerful teachers. You want to take those times that we have those experiences and use them to teach us what it looks like going forward. And a child who watches their parents maybe argue over money or bills, or maybe things that we don't typically think about because they're everyday common happenings, they might develop a child's deeper need for security without us even realizing it. Someone raised in a household where spending was spontaneous and the credit card kept flipping out, they may view money as a tool for enjoyment and experiences, and other individuals might have witnessed tremendous discipline and careful planning, creating an entirely different relationship with money and financial decisions. Those lessons rarely arrive through formal instruction. They're absorbed through daily life. We hear comments at the dinner table. Maybe we observe the reactions when unexpected expenses pop up. We watch the opportunities and how they're handled and how setbacks are managed. And over time, your belief system, it just keeps growing and growing, and you begin to form all of these different understandings beneath the surface. So then you fast forward years, and those beliefs, they show up in our relationships. And I like to say, even when it comes to what we're doing and we look around and we kind of do our thing, you don't really understand what's happening because it's just human nature. It's maybe things that we're doing that are habitual, and our kids are watching. And not only is it important for us to teach our kids and sit down eye to eye, nose to nose, but they're watching. And I often say that it's not what's taught in many cases, it's actually what's caught. And they're catching all of these different things. And we caught them too when we were little people growing up. And they influence our decisions without ever realizing it until the time comes, right? This is why I believe it's the most important thing that we can do is to have a financial conversation between two people. And it isn't about the numbers, about the understanding. What messages? What does money represent for you? What does security look like when it comes to finances? How about your freedom? Did you grow up in a place where the finances allowed you to have freedom, or was it something else? Was it achievement? Or is it possibility or even peace when it comes to talking about those money conversations? Your answers to those questions, they actually reveal far more than just what that credit score could look like. Research consistently shows that financial tension remains one of the leading contributors to relationship stress. And yes, it's research, but I probably didn't have to say the word research because I think we all understand that. And we all know that finances at the top of the list are what causes many relationships to fail. And if we recognize that early on in a relationship and we have that conversation to hopefully avoid those times in the future, I think that's a really powerful place to be. We have to recognize that conflict often is very little to do with our dollars themselves. Like I said, it's more so than the actual money or the way that we treat money, but how that understanding is deep within us. Everybody's different. Everybody brings their stuff to the table. Underneath the disagreement, of course, it could usually be the difference in their perspective or opinion. One person is trying to create stability. The other person is trying to pursue other experiences. Maybe one values the preparation and the other values flexibility, and neither position is inherently wrong. The friction develops when the assumption replaces the communication. Big word, communication, right? As relationships deepen, transparency becomes increasingly important. So again, as you're going through that journey and all the surface stuff. This episode is brought to you by Fearlessly Debt Free. Do you have great income, but the debt just doesn't seem to be going down fast enough? Just know that you are not alone. At Fearlessly Debt Free, I help people just like you pay everything off. Credit cards, loans, even mortgages, in half to a third of the time, for half to a third of what you owe. And no, this isn't budgeting, it's not debt consolidation or bankruptcy. It's math, it's strategy, and it's automatic. And it works. How would it feel to be completely debt-free and to start building incredible wealth much, much faster? Schedule your free Debt to Wealth discovery call today at fearlesslydebtfree.com and take your next steps fearlessly. And again, it's not surface all the time, but just those conversations, just trying to understand if you really like the person that you're starting to see is important, is great. But then you go down the road. At some point, discussions, they do surround debt. They maybe income, your assets, your obligations, and goals, they deserve a seat at the table. This isn't about judgment. It's about clarity. Two people considering a shared future deserves the complete picture of the journey ahead. And the funny part of all this is You don't want to sit down and just meet somebody and say, hey, by the way, and tell me about your debt. It's probably not going to go well after that. So it's just an opportunity to, yes, get to know each other, and then not only talk about it and ask the questions, but you can also observe it, observe behaviors. Your surprises rarely, they strengthen your trust. So honesty, you want to have those conversations up front. What I find encouraging is that financial success inside a relationship has very little to do with finding someone who thinks exactly the same way as you do. In fact, many strong couples, they approach money very differently. And that's understandable because, again, we talk about the upbringing that we've had. And the real advantage comes from learning how to bridge the differences. That's healthy. That's understanding instead of criticizing. It's the curiosity that might replace the defensiveness. And you might hear some of these words and think, oh, yeah, like I know, I've been there. Or I didn't have those conversations early on in my relationship. So we want to know that you have two sides of every single story. And then you've got shared goals, and they become more important than the actual habits that you have. You want to know that your goals are important, but they're important as a couple, not necessarily independently. Doesn't mean you can't be independent, but those conversations should be a topic at the top end. And once the understanding comes up and your experiences are understood, the conversations about this become less about who's right or who's wrong and more about where are we going together. So it's combining your thoughts, understanding the personality, understanding the relationship that was formed with money and moving forward from there. And that's a really healthy financial responsibility that you would have. And it helps to build a really strong relationship. Understanding that this isn't built on perfection. No, it's growing. It's being open. It's taking the time to really listen and understand and being compassionate about the other person's beliefs because we may not feel the same because of what we learned growing up. It develops through a respectful dialogue, and that's always at the top of the list. It strengthens when both people feel heard. So how many times have you heard that before? You want to feel heard, you want to feel understood, and you want to feel valued. And that's the foundation that creates so much understanding, and it creates new opportunities together. You take your information, you bring it together. Just think about how much more powerful that can be. So we want to think about how the finances line up with the beliefs that we have now as a couple, and talking about these things early on in a relationship so that we can see together what our goals are and then what our desires are in order to build that really strong financial life moving forward. And the longer that I work with individuals and couples, the more I'm convinced that it becomes not so much about the money, and it really becomes about the communication, your understanding, and you're aligning. You come together, locking arms, you're aligned, and you're moving towards the goals that you have as a couple. When these pieces all come together, and I think about the puzzle, all the pieces come together from your relationship, my relationship, we bring it together, the financial decisions become much easier. Both people are moving towards the same destination instead of being against each other. And perhaps it's the greatest gift that we can give our relationships is the courage to have these conversations early, have them honestly and thoughtfully. And the last thing you want to do is get to the point where you're like, oh my gosh, this is my person, and then be surprised. And it's also important to take a step back and listen to the whole scenario instead of just being in a place where you have judgment over, oh my goodness, they have X amount of dollars in debt. Find out what that debt is. Is the debt from an education? Is the debt from, I don't know, going out and traveling and having a great time? The situation, it differs. And so moving forward, it makes your clarity even better. A shared future deserves that level of care, that level of trust, and the trust grows. The truth becomes welcomed, and every meaningful partnership begins with that foundation. You want to build it on a solid foundation rather than assumptions. If you look at the behaviors of another person, you can understand maybe where they're going with their financial decisions, and that could be the truth. That's your God-given gut to take that in and assess the situation. But then really finding out the reason behind the debt is really important, and not to assume anything. And as I wrap up today with this conversation, I want to leave you with a few questions. And that It's going to open your mind to different things. And remember, it has nothing to do with your credit score, your investment account, your income, your debt balance, or any of those things. And you want to ask yourself the question, do you truly understand your own financial story first? That's the question. Put that responsibility on yourself, not the numbers, not the story, the experiences that shaped the person that you are today, the lessons that you learned growing up. You hear the lesson is something like, oh, money doesn't grow on trees. Did you hear that? Did you hear things that put forth a lack mentality or an abundant mentality? Those are really important things to ask yourself. Maybe the habits that you carried into adulthood and the beliefs that influenced every single financial decision that you make today. Take a step back, take a breath, look at it, and ask yourself those questions, because when we understand ourselves first, we can communicate a whole lot better. And when we communicate better, our relationships, they become stronger. And when our relationships become stronger, the financial decisions become easier because they are built on trust, clarity, and a shared vision for our future together. And whether you're dating or engaged or newly married, celebrating maybe decades together, my husband and I, decades, oh my gosh, where did the time go? Or simply working on your own financial wellness journey, taking the time to understand your relationship with money may be one of the most valuable investments that you'll ever make, ever in your entire life. Keeping in mind that umbrella, it covers everything. Money covers everything that we do in some form or fashion. And there's ways to be smart with your money and live a little bit leaner, and there's ways to be a little bit more abundant. But the bottom line is, if you have income, you're going to be able to pay your bills to live a better life and to put food on your table. So if today's conversation, it sparked something for you, you're thinking, oh yeah, I understand, I'd encourage you to start the discussion. Start it early. Doesn't matter if you're new to a relationship. It's really important to weave that in. And again, don't go into that, appetizers and financial discussion. It's probably not a good idea, but weave it into the conversation and be observant. Ask the questions, share your personal experiences and maybe the things that you learned when you were growing up, and listen with curiosity. You open your ears, 2 ears, 1 mouth, use them in that relationship, right? And then you create space for honest dialogue about money, debt, goals, dreams, and whatever financial freedom truly looks like for you. And if you're wondering where you stand financially, or you're looking for more clarity personally around your debt and the things that you want to reduce when it comes to debt reduction, maybe before getting into a relationship, maybe it's to pay off the debt in a way that's strategic that you've never thought before. Maybe it's your cash flow or your financial planning or creating a path towards long-term financial freedom. I'd love to have that conversation with you. That's what I do here. Let's go. If you think that's something that you're interested in and you're ready for, schedule. It's a complimentary discovery call. It's simple. It's amazing. We have great conversations, and together we might open opportunities to explore the possibilities and create a personalized strategy designed specifically for you to help you move towards the abundant life that you've worked so hard to build, or maybe to start building. And we hear it all the time. You start young and there's that debt. It's looming over you, and you don't really want to start your life with the debt hanging over you. So I want to thank you so much for joining me here again, Fearlessly Debt Free, where we take the big, bold moves towards financial freedom to help you create the opportunity to live a truly abundant life. Have a great day, and I will talk to you next time.
Fearlessly debt free, we're doing it right. Cutting through the chaos, clarity shines. Wealth on the horizon, it's finally time. Strategy strong and direction clear. Let's build a future without the fear. You're not alone, we've got your back. Rewriting your story, getting life